My dear friends, there comes a day in every human life when the world stops defining you and you start defining yourself. That day, you don't just change your routine, you change your destiny. And the most beautiful part, the moment you choose yourself, the universe finally chooses you back. My dear friends, let me begin this point with a simple truth. Most people are not living their lives. They are living the noise around their lives. From the moment we wake up, we are surrounded by distractions, opinions, expectations, comparisons, judgments, responsibilities, fears. And slowly, without even realizing it, the noise becomes louder than our own inner voice. But the day you choose yourself, the very first gift you receive is clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about who you are not. Clarity about what you want. Clarity about what you no longer want to tolerate. You see, confusion is not always a lack of answers. Sometimes it's the presence of too many unnecessary voices. Someone wants you to live their dream. Someone wants you to avoid their mistake. Someone wants you to follow their plan. And in trying to please everyone, you slowly lose the one person who mattered most, yourself. But clarity comes the moment you pause, the moment you breathe, the moment you say, let me understand what I feel. Let me understand what I need. Let me understand what I truly want from this life. My friends, choosing yourself doesn't always look grand or dramatic. Sometimes it looks like closing your eyes for a moment and asking your heart, what direction makes me feel light? And what direction makes me feel heavy? Clarity isn't about having a map for the next 20 years. It's about taking the next step with certainty and peace. When you choose yourself, you stop chasing things that drain you and start moving toward things that grow you. You stop trying to impress people who don't even notice your effort. And you start valuing people who value your presence. Clarity is freedom. Clarity is power. Clarity is the beginning of transformation. And here's the beautiful part. When you gain clarity, confusion in others no longer confuses you. You understand that some people won't understand your decisions, and that's okay. Because your life is not a democracy, it's a personal journey. When you choose yourself, you allow your mind to settle, and like muddy water, when it settles, it becomes crystal clear. And from that clarity comes purpose. From that purpose comes peace. And from that peace comes a life that finally feels like it belongs to you. So yes, my friends, the very first thing that changes the day you choose yourself is this: you stop walking blindly in the fog of expectations. And you start walking with the torch of clarity. When you choose yourself, something powerful happens inside you. You stop begging for approval you never needed in the first place. For years, many of us live like performers on a stage, constantly waiting for the applause of people who aren't even paying attention. We shape our dreams to fit their comfort. We adjust our personality to fit their expectations. We shrink our desires so no one feels threatened. And slowly, quietly, painfully, we forget who we are. Seeking approval becomes like breathing, automatic, unconscious, constant. We start thinking, if they agree, I'm right. If they appreciate me, I'm worthy. If they validate me, I'm enough. But my dear friends, approval from others is the most unstable currency in the world. It changes with their mood, their mindset, their insecurities, their convenience. One day you're praised for something, the next day you're criticized for the exact same thing. One moment you're appreciated, the next moment you're ignored. That's the danger of giving others the power to decide your value. But the day you choose yourself, you take that power back. you realize something profound, that your worth was never supposed to be handed to you by someone else. It was supposed to be discovered as is within you. Suddenly, you stop adjusting your life to earn a smile from people who don't even try to understand your heart. You stop waiting for someone to clap before you take the first step. You stop seeking permission to be who you already are. And the most beautiful part, you start breathing differently. You feel lighter. You make decisions based on your growth, not someone's approval. You stop walking on eggshells, afraid that your choices might upset someone. You stop overthinking every word because you fear someone will judge you. You stop needing someone to say, "Good job," for you to feel proud. Approval becomes a gift, not a requirement. People may still have opinions. They may criticize, misunderstand, gossip, or question your choices. But it doesn't touch you the same way anymore, because you understand that their approval is not oxygen, it's noise. And when you stop depending on noise to feel alive, you finally begin to hear your own voice clearly. When you choose yourself, you become confident in a different way. Not loud, not arrogant, not egoistic, but centered, grounded, calm. You know what you're doing. You know why you're doing it. And you don't feel the need to justify yourself to every passing judgment. You start building a life that feels good on the inside, not one that just looks good on the outside. And here's the magic: when you stop chasing approval, the right people, the ones who genuinely support you, begin to appear naturally. You attract people who respect your choices, not people who try to control them. People who appreciate your authenticity, not your performance. People who stand by you, not above you. Choosing yourself removes the chains of seeking approval. It sets you free to express, to grow, to make mistakes, to learn, to shine, to live. It frees you from living life like a reaction to others and helps you live life as an expression of your truth. And in that freedom, you finally meet the real you, the one who was always enough, even before anyone said it. When you choose yourself, you begin to protect your energy in a way you never have before. You start to understand that not every person deserves access to your mind, your emotions, or your time. For so long, many of us let anyone walk into our inner world. Their complaints enter, their negativity settles, their drama spreads, and we carry the weight of emotions that were never ours to begin with. We drain ourselves trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed, trying to help people who only want attention, and trying to keep relationships alive that are already emotionally dead. But something changes the moment you choose yourself. You suddenly see how precious your energy truly is. You begin noticing how some people leave you inspired, while others leave you exhausted. How some conversations make you grow, and others make you shrink. How some people light up your spirit, while others consistently dim it. And you realize, sometimes with pain and sometimes with relief, that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's survival. You stop entertaining arguments that go nowhere. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop giving second chances to those who misuse the first 100. You stop watering relationships where only you are trying to grow. You stop allowing people to dump their emotional garbage into your mind. You stop letting guilt manipulate you into staying in situations that drain your soul. And the most powerful shift, you begin to understand the difference between kindness and self-neglect. Just because you are compassionate doesn't mean you are responsible for carrying everyone's emotional baggage. Just because you care doesn't mean you must burn yourself to keep others warm. Choosing yourself teaches you to help without destroying your own peace, to support without sacrificing your mental health, to love without losing yourself in the process. You start creating boundaries, not walls, but gates. Gates that open for those who respect your peace and close for those who thrive on chaos. Boundaries become your protection, not your punishment. You learn to say no without fear, without guilt, without apology. And that single word frees you from 1,000 hidden burdens. People might not like your boundaries at first. They were used to the version of you who kept giving even when you were empty, who kept saying yes even when you were hurting, who kept showing up even when no one else did. When you choose yourself, some people will say you've changed. But the truth is, you're simply returning to who you were meant to be before the world drained you. As you protect your energy, you begin noticing the peace that enters your life. You feel calmer, you sleep deeper, you think clearer, you stop reacting to everything, you stop feeling overwhelmed all the time, you start experiencing a sense of emotional freedom you didn't know was possible. And this peace becomes addictive, not in a selfish way, but in a healing way. Protecting your energy creates space for growth. It gives you room to breathe, to think, to dream, to heal, to rebuild. It opens your life to positivity, purpose, and people who uplift you instead of draining you. It transforms your relationships, your decisions, your mindset, your future. And somewhere along the journey, you realize that life becomes so much lighter, so much quieter, so much more meaningful when you stop giving your energy to people who never deserved it. Choosing yourself teaches you this truth. Not everyone should have a seat in your life. Not everyone should have the power to influence your emotions. Not everyone should get the privilege of your presence, because your energy is sacred. And the moment you start protecting it, everything in your life begins to rise. When you choose yourself, you start building habits that align with your future instead of your fears. And this becomes one of the most life-altering shifts you will ever experience. For so long, many of us live in a pattern that's comfortable today, but costly tomorrow. We repeat habits that soothe us for a moment, but sabotage us in the long run. We cling to routines that distract us from our potential rather than guide us toward it. But the day you choose yourself, something inside you wakes up. You begin to see that every small action you repeat is shaping the person you are becoming. You start realizing that your future is not built in one grand moment, it's built in hundreds of small, ordinary decisions you make when nobody is watching. You begin to understand that the person you want to become does not appear out of motivation. They appear out of discipline, commitment, and consistency. And slowly, you stop waiting for the right time, the perfect day, the magical moment. You recognize that the right time was always the moment you decided you mattered. You start sleeping earlier, not because someone told you to, but because you know your mind deserves rest. You start waking up with intention, not because you want to impress anyone, but because you want to meet the strongest version of yourself. You start reading, learning, investing in your mental growth, not to show off your knowledge, but to guide your life with wisdom instead of confusion. You begin to care for your body, not out of insecurity, but out of respect for the only home you will ever live in. You stop wasting hours scrolling through other people's success stories and start writing your own through daily action. You stop feeding habits that numb your emotions and begin cultivating habits that nourish your soul. You stop repeating patterns that keep you stuck and begin creating routines that pull you forward. And even on difficult days, days when you feel tired, overwhelmed, or discouraged, you still choose yourself by showing up in whatever capacity you can, because you finally understand that progress is not about perfection, it's about persistence. The beautiful thing is that your habits begin to match your identity. You start seeing yourself differently, not as someone who hopes for change, but as someone who creates it. You become proud of the small victories, drinking water instead of escaping into unhealthy comforts, writing one page instead of postponing your dreams, taking one walk instead of drowning in stress. These tiny acts of choosing yourself become silent proof that you are transforming. And here's what many people don't realize. When you align your habits with your future starts pulling you instead of you chasing it. You begin to feel a natural momentum, a sense of direction, purpose, and clarity. You start to trust yourself more because now you are no longer breaking promises to yourself. You feel stronger because you finally see that discipline is not punishment, it is self-love in motion. People may not notice your early habits. They may not see you waking up early, choosing better, trying harder, staying consistent. They may not understand why you've changed your routines or why you're so focused. But eventually, your results will speak the language your habits whispered. And somewhere along this journey, you realize something profound. Choosing yourself is not a single decision you make once. It is a daily commitment. A commitment to show up, grow up, rise up, and build the life that reflects who you truly are, not who you were forced to be. Every day you choose to stick to the habits that align with your future. You take one more step toward a life you will be proud to live. Because your future is not waiting for motivation, it is waiting for you to choose yourself again and again and again. When you choose yourself, you stop apologizing for being who you are. And this is one of the most liberating, transformative experiences a human can ever go through. For most of our lives, we learn to shrink ourselves. We learn to tone down our laughter so no one calls us too loud. We learn to hide our talents so no one thinks we're too confident. We learn to silence our opinions so no one labels us as too much. We learn to camouflage our uniqueness so we don't stand out, because standing out feels risky in a world that loves sameness. From childhood, many of us are conditioned to fit into boxes created by family, society, culture, expectations, fear, and tradition. And as we grow older, those boxes become tighter. We apologize for speaking our truth. We apologize for wanting more. We apologize for dreaming bigger than what others can understand. We apologize for our emotions, our passions, our intensity, our softness, our ambition, our sensitivity, everything that makes us uniquely ourselves. But the day you choose yourself, you break that cycle. Something inside you whispers, I'm done hiding. See, something inside you rises and says, I'm allowed to exist fully. Something inside you declares, I don't need to shrink to make others comfortable, says. And suddenly, you stop apologizing for your voice because you realize your voice carries power. You stop apologizing for your truth because your truth is sacred. You stop apologizing for your dreams because your dreams were planted in your heart for a reason. You stop apologizing for your standards because your standards protect your worth. You stop apologizing for your emotions because emotions are evidence that you feel deeply, not signs that you are weak. When you choose yourself, you start walking differently. Not arrogantly, but confidently, authentically, peacefully. You stop bending yourself into shapes just to be accepted. You stop dimming your light so others don't feel insecure. You stop editing your personality to fit into rooms that don't deserve you. You stop filtering your existence just to be tolerated. And people around you begin to react. Some might feel uncomfortable because they were accustomed to the version of you who always said yes, who always adjusted, who always carried the weight, who always stayed quiet. They may say you've changed. But the truth is, you have returned to the most honest version of yourself. When you choose yourself, you stop living with a constant sense of guilt. Guilt for resting, guilt for prioritizing your mental health, guilt for walking away from toxic people, guilt for setting boundaries, guilt for wanting peace, guilt for choosing growth. That guilt slowly dissolves because you finally understand you were never required to betray yourself for the comfort of others. You stop apologizing for taking up space because you finally understand that you were meant to take up space. Your presence is not an inconvenience. Your existence is not a burden. You start embracing yourself, your strengths, your quirks, your flaws, your depth, your story. You accept that you are beautifully unfinished, a work in progress, a soul evolving, and there is nothing shameful about that. Choosing yourself teaches you that the right people will never ask you to be less. They will celebrate your authenticity. They will respect your boundaries. They will cherish your voice. They will value your truth. They will love you not because you fit their mold, but because you finally started honoring your own shape. And once you taste this kind of freedom, the freedom of being fully, unapologetically yourself, you never want to go back. You begin to walk into every room with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they belong. You speak with the certainty of someone who no longer fears judgment. You live with the peace of someone who no longer needs external permission to be who they are. When you choose yourself, you stop apologizing for your existence. And in that moment, for the first time, you start truly living. When you choose yourself, you begin to prioritize peace over popularity. And this single shift can change the entire direction of your life. For most of our lives, we are taught, encouraged, or indirectly pressured to be liked. We try to please everyone: family, friends, colleagues, society. We try to keep everyone comfortable, even when their comfort costs us our own peace. We try to maintain an image, a reputation, a good impression. And without even realizing it, we start sacrificing the most important thing, as there's our inner peace. You see, popularity is seductive. It feels good when people like us, appreciate us, praise us, clap for us. We crave that acceptance because it gives us a temporary sense of belonging. But the truth is, popularity is fragile. It is inconsistent. It depends on other people's expectations, not your truth. It comes and goes as quickly as someone's opinion changes. And if you build your life around being liked, you will constantly be at the mercy of other people's moods, preferences, and judgments. But the day you choose yourself, you realize that peace is far more valuable than popularity. You start noticing how exhausting it is to please everyone, how draining it is to keep adjusting yourself to meet expectations, how heavy it feels to say yes when your heart wants to say no, how painful it is to force smiles, hide emotions, and suppress your own needs just to maintain an image. You realize that in trying to make everyone happy, you forgot what happiness means to you, so you begin to shift slowly, quietly, powerfully. You choose silence over unnecessary arguments. You choose distance over drama. You choose honesty over pretending. You choose boundaries over pleasing. You choose rest over overcommitment. You choose meaningful relationships over large crowds. You choose emotional well-being over social approval. And something amazing happens when you start prioritizing peace. Life becomes calmer. You stop reacting to every comment, every opinion, every judgment. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop trying to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop breaking yourself just so others feel comfortable. Instead, you learn to protect your mental space. You learn to guard your heart. You learn to walk away when environments become toxic. You learn to speak less and observe more. You learn that sometimes the greatest strength is the ability to stay silent in situations where you once felt pressured to respond. Choosing peace doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what isn't yours. It means you choose emotional freedom over emotional exhaustion. It means you choose the quality of your life over the quantity of people who approve of it. People might say you've become distant. People might say you've changed. People might say you're not the same. And that's true. You have changed. You're no longer willing to trade your peace for acceptance. You're no longer sacrificing your well-being for the sake of being liked. You're no longer prioritizing people who never prioritized you. And here's what's beautiful. When you stop prioritizing popularity, the right people, those who genuinely align with your heart, naturally move closer to you. They respect your peace. They honor your boundaries. They value your presence. They appreciate your truth. They don't need you to pretend or perform. They don't need you to be someone else. They love you for who you truly are. Peace brings clarity. Peace brings joy. Peace brings strength. Peace brings wisdom. Peace brings emotional stability. Peace brings a life that feels meaningful, not just impressive. And once you taste this kind of peace, the peace that comes from choosing yourself, you never want to live without it again. Choosing peace over popularity is not losing. It is choosing a life that feels right over a life that only looks right. When you choose yourself, you stop waiting for life to give you permission to grow. And this becomes a turning point that reshapes your destiny. For years, many of us live as if we need someone else to green light our dreams, approve our decisions, validate our choices, or certify our worth before we take the next step. We hesitate, we delay. We hold ourselves back because we assume growth is something that must be allowed by others. We wait for signs, for support, for encouragement, for perfect timing. And in that waiting, we lose years of our potential. It's almost as if we live behind an invisible gate that is unlocked, yet we stand there waiting for someone else to open it for us. We wait for someone to say, "You're ready." We wait for someone to say, "This is the right path." We wait for someone to say, "I believe in you." But the day you choose yourself, you realize the truth. The only permission you ever needed was your own. This realization is both empowering and scary. Empowering because you finally see how much control you had all along. Scary because now you understand there are no more excuses. You are responsible for becoming who you want to be. Your growth is your responsibility, not your parents, not your friends, not societies, not circumstances, not fates. Yours. And when this truth sinks in, something incredible awakens inside you. You stop waiting for external approval and start giving yourself internal authority. You begin taking steps, even small ones, toward the person you want to become. You start choosing books that expand your mind instead of distractions that shrink it. You start choosing environments that challenge you instead of circles that keep you stagnant. You choose routines that push you forward instead of habits that pull you backward. You begin learning new skills not because someone told you to, but because you want to evolve. You start taking care of your emotional health, not because it's trendy, but because you finally understand that your mind shapes your reality. You begin listening to your body, not ignoring its signals. You start investing in your future self, even if no one around you understands why. Choosing yourself turns you into an active participant in your own life. You stop drifting. You stop floating. You stop handing the steering wheel of your life to everyone except yourself. Instead, you take control gently, consistently, bravely. You make decisions with confidence. You make moves with purpose. You develop a mindset that says, I may not have all the answers, but I'm willing to grow until I do. And something beautiful happens when you step into this version of yourself. You stop fearing mistakes. You stop fearing judgment. You stop fearing failure. Because you realize that growth is a journey, not a test. Growth requires effort, not perfection. Growth demands patience, not approval. You start embracing challenges as teachers, not threats. You start seeing obstacles as stepping stones, not barriers. You start recognizing that every new level of growth comes with discomfort. But it's the kind of discomfort that shapes you, not breaks you. People around you may not understand your transformation. Some will wonder why you've changed your habits. Some will question your choices. Some may even mock your efforts because your growth highlights their stagnation. But you keep going anyway because you finally understand that the person you are becoming is far more important than the opinions of those who refuse to grow. And here's the most powerful part. When you choose yourself, growth becomes natural. You no longer force it. You no longer fear it. You no longer run from it. You flow with it. You begin to evolve mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. You become more aware, more compassionate, more resilient, more focused. You become someone who trusts themselves, someone who believes in their own potential deeply. And one day, without even realizing it, you look back and see how far you've come, not because someone pushed you, but because you finally chose yourself. Choosing yourself unlocks growth that was waiting for you all along. The key was always in your hands. You just had to decide to use it. When you choose yourself, you finally stop clinging to people who were only meant to be temporary. And this becomes one of the hardest, yet most liberating lessons of your life. For so long, many of us hold on to relationships, friendships, connections, and attachments long after they have expired. We stay because of history, because of memories, because of fear of loneliness, because we don't want to hurt anyone, because we hope things will magically change. But deep inside, we know some people are not meant to stay forever. Some people are chapters, not the whole book. Some people are lessons, not destinations. The day you choose yourself, you begin to see this truth with painful clarity. You realize that certain relationships drain more than they give. Certain friendships don't uplift you, they exhaust you. Certain people don't see your value, they only see your utility. Certain connections only survive when you are the one making all the effort. And for the first time, you stop ignoring that heaviness. You stop pretending it doesn't hurt. You stop making excuses for people who continually break you. You start recognizing who brings peace into your life and who brings chaos, who supports your growth and who feels threatened by it, who shows up because they care and who shows up only when it's convenient, who respects you and who only uses you. And with that awareness comes a turning point. You begin to understand that holding on to the wrong people prevents the right ones from entering your life. That clinging to the familiar stops you from growing into the future you deserve. That staying connected to people who drain you is a slow form of self abandonment. So you begin to release, not with anger, not with bitterness, not with hatred, but with acceptance. You release the need to force people to understand you. You release the hope that they will suddenly change. You release the guilt of walking away. You release the fear of being alone. You release the burden of maintaining relationships you didn't break. And for the first time, you realize that letting go is not losing, it is choosing. Choosing peace, choosing emotional safety, choosing self-respect, choosing growth, choosing a future where you are surrounded by people who see you, value you, and uplift you. When you choose yourself, you no longer settle for crumbs of attention and call it love. You no longer cling to half-hearted effort and call it loyalty. You no longer attach yourself to people who can't meet you with the same depth you offer. You begin to understand that connection must be mutual, not one-sided. That love must be reciprocal, not draining. That effort must be shared, not carried by one person. And something profound happens when you let go of the wrong people. Your heart becomes lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your spirit becomes stronger. You start feeling space. Space to breathe, space to heal, space to rediscover yourself. You begin reconnecting with parts of yourself that were buried under emotional noise. You start investing your time into people who genuinely care. You start valuing yourself in a way that makes it impossible for you to accept half love again. Some people may not understand why you walked away. Some may call you cold, distant, selfish, or changed. But what they won't understand is that you didn't walk away to hurt them. You walked away to save yourself. You walked away because staying was damaging your mental health. You walked away because giving more was destroying your peace. You walked away because choosing them meant abandoning yourself. And this time, you refuse to abandon yourself again. And here's the beauty. When you release the wrong people, you create room for the right ones. People who align with your heart, your values, your growth, your energy. People with whom you don't have to pretend, perform, or prove anything. People who meet you where you are and grow with you. People who offer peace, not confusion. Choosing yourself teaches you the art of letting go, not as an act of weakness, but as an act of profound self-love. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to stop holding on to what is hurting you.